Fantastic. So we have first in my CSS, and we've downloaded that from our GitHub, which has been linked through Canvas. We've worked for this link today. And so, for example, inside of JavaScript phase 1, I've got a few files here. So first.html is where we go first. And then we're going to go visit me, and then we're going to go now go here. Does that make sense? And so my CSS will be a consistent CSS that we use throughout this. And so first.html, let's go ahead and refresh that. So there's a little bit of styling here. And let's just walk through the source. So you can see there's a text input. And it's of type number, so it has a numeric stepper. So you can't really write numbers. I think you can write numbers, yeah. But it will also give you the opportunity to step up to those numbers. And then this is an input type where there's text. And so the default value says give us a name. So I can delete through that. And then there's a button where I complete, and I have some nice output. And I can keep building that if I want. So it's doing something very similar to what you guys did. Now, in the real world, we can press buttons and we can make things appear, but all I'm really doing is I'm using the button as a way to display how I can create web content on demand. So let's say there's an event that takes place in the page. Maybe it's a click event, maybe it's a page load event. But when something happens, I can make HTML appear, and then that HTML can be styled and have all the richness if I had coded it myself. And that's because you guys, and that brings us over. So I've got my input. Here's what the first.html looks like. I've got my input, then I've got a button. The idea of the button is complete. And this is very verbose. Finish the exercise by printing out some nice input, please. And then it's got a link. Click here for an example link. We haven't made visit me yet. So we begin JavaScript. And so we're adding to the complete button. This is something we did yesterday where we said there's really two ways to add functionality to a button. One is to add it into JavaScript. And so we just grab the complete button and then we add an on-click event to it. The other is where we do maybe I have the example here, that'd be kind of cool, is if I do an on-click that I code right into the button. So here I'm just building the on-click event into the JavaScript itself. And so we're going to grab the initial value, which is the name that I type in. And then I'm going to call a function called wrap it up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something very similar to what you guys have been doing the past 2 days, where I'm going to build a div or an HTML element using create element and then append child. And then I'm going to use a set attribute where, and then I'm going to append that new div to the body. And it just so happens that I've given body an ID of bod in order to illustrate how I use ID inside of JavaScript. You can actually, there's actually a keyword inside of JavaScript where you append to the body, but I like to emphasize the ID just for where you're at right now. Where if you're thinking in terms of IDs, you're ahead of the game. You're exactly where we want you to be, because that's a strong place to be. It means that if I can build an ID into it, I can control it. I can make that HTML do what I'm asking it to do, which is good. So I call wrap it up. And at the end of wrap it up, I'm going to create a link out of it. And you can see inside of the page that we're dynamically, if every time I click this, I'm adding new links. And I'm bringing the value inside of the clicker. Let's put 10,000 and then add, or 100,001. And then we click this a few times. And at the bottom of the page, it's adding that number. And then it's adding, hi, Stefan Bund. Click here to return to page. Da, 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 da. So it's creating a link dynamically. Now, you guys know how to make paragraphs dynamically. You guys know how to make divs dynamically. You guys know how to make a div dynamically that attaches to a Bootstrap CSS. Does that make sense? These are things that you have an example. And whether you've memorized it or not, you have the example, which is pretty good. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter if you can just sit down and just play it. You have the time to look at an example and then implement it, but you know that that's out there. That's a part of your cognitive inventory. It's in your memory. And so now you know that it's as easy to make a link as it is to make a div. Does that make sense? And that's because when we do create element, we create an anchor, and then second, inside of create link, we're going to create an href right here where we set the address. We set the href property to the anchor. So I said, hey, you're going to create an anchor element or an A element. And then ultimately, you're going to set the href or the hyperlink to that anchor to be visitme.html. And you know visitme.html, that sounds a little bit familiar because a minute ago you said visit me. That's going to be the code that we have here, and we're going to make it navigate. And so having that programmatic algorithmic navigation built into your page is good. Does that make sense? And so that means that you can create the content that needs to be there when you feel like it needs to be there. That's a little bit different than the way that you've been doing things in the past month, where in the first month you had to code it. You had to type it in, and it's there whether you like it or not. HTML doesn't have a programming language inside of it. JavaScript is needed by HTML in order to build interactive behaviors into it. So what I want to demonstrate today is the practicality of links, where, hey, the user has unlocked a privilege and they can access the privilege by following this link. But we're going to programmatically, can you guys say programmatically? Programmatically. Thank you. I don't know if they can hear me. Can you guys confirm that the video has your name, your words in it? That would be nice. That way they can hear your questions. But programmatically build interactive material, that's valuable. So it's going to say, go here now, person's name, and the person's name is going to be the value of X. And the value of X was passed to wrap it up because that's the, is that the initial value? I think so. It's whatever was inside of the text. So that's the name value. Give us a name. So what it's kind of saying is, okay, let's say it's you thought I was going to put your name.
No.
Brian Cranston. And so, okay, Brian Cranston, go here and return to page. And I'm just showing off how I can customize the link. I can put things into the link to make the link more human. And then I can make divs that are also, and so when I click there, I'm going to go over visit me. That's fine. I'm just motivating you to accept the create element, set attribute, append child. Create text node is what the content of the paragraph or the link, anything, right? Any words are going to be inside of create text node. And so that's the end of that functionality. So it's going to navigate over to visit me. So all I've really done is I've just customized the link. The link has been humanized. The link has some culture to it. And if it says your name in it, you're going to be like, well, okay, well, I'm going to consider doing what it asked me to do. So I think where we are going eventually is well, can we actually customize the link? I mean, the URL where it's going. And that process is called URL parameters. Can you guys say URL parameters?
URL parameters.
That's really good. URL parameters is the way that we begin to use the internet like a gigantic singular computer, where I'm going to send data from one machine to another using the hyperlink. So the hyperlink is the way that I push data around the internet. So if you can customize the link with somebody's name, you can probably also encode the link with data that I can send somewhere else. And so then the question is, well, it's easy enough for me to encode data into the link, but the complexity is the page who receives it. How do they ingest those URL parameters? So that's going to be an advanced lesson that I'd like to get to ASAP. But probably we're going to go by the way of cookies first. Cookies will keep you busy. Okay, so you guys know URL parameters. That's good stuff. Let me give a quick example of URL parameters. Can you guys log into your Gmail sometime today? And when you log into your Gmail, do this little bit of homework. Copy and paste the URL into a Word document or into a notepad or into an IDE window. The URL to Gmail is extensive. And you're saying, well, I remember typing in Gmail, but Gmail returned this very elaborate URL. And the reason why is because the URL is full of data. And it's passing, it could even pass an encryption key within the URL. You know, a way to unlock your content. That would be perfectly fine. The URL that it passes you is actually rich with lots of variables that Google wants your local Gmail client to use and to ingest. Maybe there's a security parameter that gets embedded within the URL. Maybe there's some instructive configuration data inside the URL. Maybe there's some special things that Google wants to inform your local website about. So, you know, it's really the Google people who introduced Gmail, Google Maps. They've really added a whole new layer of IQ to the web. And that's kind of Google's special, you know, what they bequeathed over time. And people like, you know, who've worked on those products. So, visit me. Do we want to pause for a minute and fool around? It's always a good thing to do when we allow people to mess around. Great. So the next trick is to, let's go get Visit Me. And so Visit Me is up on our GitHub. So let's go there. And it's a simple page. The only thing that's on that page is a link. So we're saying, well, another interactive process can be here. And maybe people unlock a link to go elsewhere. And so let's just grab Visit Me. And we'll kind of put so I'll say visit me to HTML. And you can see that I need to be explicit in that spelling and save that. And that is a very easy page, and that will just link to now go here.
We're singing about HTML. The now in line 7.
Now,
the link is missing now. It doesn't work.
I think you're missing the closing anchor tag.
Okay. Happy now? So let's proof that. I must have to change that every time I demo this because it's not updated. So I must update it every time. And so let's go ahead and, okay, nice output. Okay, let's go here. Hi, okay, let's now redirect you here. And so let's grab that. You can see in the status bar that that's going now go here.html, which is the next element that we build. So you understand that we have kind of a little mock website here. And it's nice and small. When you guys are learning, keep your examples small and contained. Software engineering has about reusing components frequently. So keep your examples small and limited. Now go here. And there's quite a bit more happening here. So Let's go to raw. And this is for now go here. And this page mirrors the first page. So we'll go now go here. My students love to correct me. There are all these alpha males specifically.
Yeah.
None of my lovely, exquisite female students do this. It's always my male students who are quick to correct me. Like, don't you mean that you need an end? Didn't you need? And they love that. I'm like, you're right. And I've learned to just go with it. I don't get upset. I also have another awkward thing that happens in my life. I love to wear khakis. So I go walking around a Target or around an IKEA or around a grocery store, and people think I work there. It happens every time.
Yeah.
Some lovely older lady comes up to me and says, excuse me, can you check the price on this lettuce? And I look around, I'm like, I'm working on my second master's degree. Like, I'm a lecturer at Cal Polytechnic University. I don't know the price of the lettuce. Yeah, but I don't do that. I literally bring up my phone and I'm like, yeah, sure, here, let's take a look. And I don't know, I should be working there. So I'm like, let me help you find that. And it always happens where this person is clearly a little disoriented and they're a little embarrassed because they realized, but, you know, after a moment or two, I don't actually work there. But usually there are people who are so disoriented they've forgotten what they've said anyway. Why am I talking to this person again? Oh, never mind. Here, I'll find my own lettuce. It always ends up. But it happened to me in an IKEA, the IKEA Costa Mesa. And I think I had a red polo shirt on. And a Brooks Brothers insignia. I mean, I didn't actually work there. But I was also carrying around an iPad. And somebody asked me to do a price check on something. And I was like, I can't get mad at this person. Let's just pretend that I'm looking at the price on the iPad. I'm like, it's $699.99. The price was actually right on it. And they're like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, it's actually on sale right now. So right now it's kind of maybe they actually do free delivery. I'm like, I wonder if that's how an employee would talk to people. And they're like, oh, okay. And they usually wander off, I'm like, okay. All right, so this now go here is very similar to our first page where we have here. Let's bring up the production. Let's redirect you here, and the end page. Is that now go here? Did I? Now go here to HTML. Visit me now. Oh, the students are telling me HTML. Is that what you're going to say? Yep. Oh, no. I knew that. They're like, oh, you did it wrong. That's fine. If you're going to, I'm like the rodeo clown of internet coding. I'm like, there could be 100,000 people that see that I've miscoded that. So I just need to work with it. I think a couple of my videos are up in the 100,000 views. Like I literally should be putting ads. I don't know what corporation would advertise on my page, like something horrendous. Like the Communist Chinese Party will be like, join the Red Army now. So let's try. Let's go ahead and let's refresh. And great. And what happened? Did I change the wrong video? Now go here.
Doing something wrong.
Visit me.htm, and then now go here. Oh, I think I changed the name on the wrong page. I think that's L, and then now go here. That needs to change. Is that okay? Just pretend you're in an IKEA. It's okay. And So let's save it. And let's see if that's good to go. Redirect you here. Okay, welcome. Okay, so really the very same idea where we're creating a couple of divs programmatically. The source code looks like somebody coded this, but really the JavaScript is spitting out things. Yes?
I'm having an issue where it just pops up as the code itself rather than.
Maybe you probably, now this is the now go here, is it? And so now the hyperlink looks differently and behaves differently. And this will go back to first, that's fine. And then this is just the same kind of numeric stepper. Click me to move the inputs data into the console. And so that should show up in the console. And so value of text is now. Click this to move to the next page if you're done. And so it's just showing off some of the, and so I can move back. So we click this and we move back. And so let's go to now go here. And so the page is very similar, where there's some get element by ID, and then there's a navigate. And so we're really doing, the purpose of this is to review a few skills and then get everybody into the spirit of programming inside of JavaScript. Web development is some of the most motivating programming that you may do. People get really like, I got to get it right. I got to get the result because they want to see it on the web. Document get element by ID. We've been using that. We've been also assigning variables to get element by ID to grab the value of things. That's fine. That's really good. Programming is about variables. It's about boiling a problem down into variables. If we can define and move things into variables, we can begin programming with them. So that's what we've been trying to do, is to say, okay, we have HTML, we have text inputs, we have input inside of the text inputs. Now we assign variables to text inputs. Now we can begin coding with the variables. So functions are useful in that it moves data around the page. And now we can really start to talk about the language elements inside of JavaScript. JavaScript is very easy to learn. It's a lot like Java without much of the namespace. It's built to mirror Java. It's not Java. It sounds like it's Java. It was actually, JavaScript came to prominence the same time in the late 90s that Java was coming to prominence, coming to dominate, software engineering circles. There was a lot of enthusiasm around Java. Java was going to be a programming language that integrated with networks. JavaScript was going to be a Java-esque object-oriented programming language that was to be inserted into web pages. JavaScript is doing very well. It continues to flourish. So within the navigate function, and you guys can click near these. These should highlight each other, and you have this nice line that illuminates the endpoints. I code in such a way that I like to do an old school bracketing. I find that it's easier to read. It's easier to locate bugs. If you guys have located bugs in my code, it's because it's easy to read my code. Does that make sense? Like my code, it invites review. It invites scrutiny. And I found over time, I actually began to code this way after I would go to computer camp as a 9-year-old, where we would code BASIC and Pascal, summer, instead of playing outside, making brackets. But also I began to code brackets this way after I was programming iPhones for a couple of years. And so the iPhone is actually using a late 80s Objective-C paradigm. This is before it converged over to Swift. And so what I appreciate about Objective-C is that it was fast. Once you got good at it, it made you productive. But it also was very easily read. And it's largely because of these brackets are this way. I don't think a lot of people bracket this way. I think a lot of people like to go like this. And they probably don't, they don't like to have a lot of commenting, which is fine. I have commenting now. But they like to have bracketing that looks like this. And that's fine. But I find that it's not as geometric. It doesn't look like a proof. I appreciate the readability of it. And so projects where I'm working with other people, I tend to ask others to have that convention, and it's easier to read. So here we have, you guys are good at variable assignment inside of JavaScript, where we have a get element, but id.value, that's fine. And then you're good at using console, where console is a lot like system out.println in Java. And it's very useful when you guys are debugging a complex business process, because it can illuminate what those variables are worth. And then you recognize the conditional language. If that y value is less than 1 and y is less than 100, let's go ahead and navigate the user. And this is a little tiny, we worked for an hour just to show off one line of code, which is window.location.href. This is the way that we send the user to another page. So what we'll say is utilize the namespace of the window, then specify where we want to send the user in terms of an href, and we will send them back to first.html. And so that in practice looks a bit like this, where we will press one of these buttons and it will send us back to first. A very, very easy result, but it's a powerful programming paradigm to be able to send people where we want them to be, no matter where that is. Otherwise, set up a warning. So if the numeric stepper is between 1 and 100, so if it's, let's say it's 101, it will actually prevent me from doing that. Now, when we build things for clients, we're not going to do, we're going to use these same skills in order to fulfill their business objectives. How should the site behave? Does that make sense? And so you guys are learning to integrate with data that's on the page and to build rules and then respond to rules that you guys build. So that's the way that this would work. So just to wrap up, we created a multi-page nexus, a site where we started with first and, and inside of first, we created a web experience that had a few inputs, and that was dynamically creating links using the create link. And we were appending that to the body as we've shown in the past 2 lessons. And then we're navigating, and we're continuing to navigate. Now go here, and from here, we are processing a little bit of rules in order to give another location. Window location.href. And this is a skill that we want to use toward our project that will be happening very soon.